This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Everybody, Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk with our Sunday Stream of Consciousness right here on Northeast Streaming Sports. We welcome all of you on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter this morning. We'll be on Roku at 12 o'clock. Get those Roku devices downloaded, guys. Tell your friends about the Roku channel, the NESIP, Northeast Streaming Sports channel, and you want to get that downloaded and be able to enjoy the experience even more. Good morning, Stephen Gold. How are you today? Alan's in early. Boomer sooner. Not going to happen for you in the NCAAs, as we know. And Alan had just sent me the seedings for the Big 12 tournament, which we'll jump into a little bit later. We're going to have Jim Beringer on out of the gate here probably in a few minutes to talk about NHL hockey. We'll talk about some college football, college basketball. I didn't even look at the college football news today, so if there's somebody wants to bring up, we can certainly do it. Your topics are always worth bringing up, guys. I try to keep them within the segment that we're talking about. So I'm telling you now how we're going to go about the order we go. College basketball will follow. We'll look at some of the tournaments, the smaller conference tournaments that are going on now. Murray State, the first team, the first automatic bid in to the tournament. Good morning, Kenny Gifford. Hope you're on the mend. Kenny's had some travails early on here, and we hope you're on the mend for sure, Kenny. We'll talk some NFL news. Aaron Rodgers. I did see Alan's reminding me about Amari Cooper. Some Amari Cooper news, and Dallas possibly cutting ties with him, and some rumored destinations. What else do I want to talk about today? We'll have Mark Mancini will be out of hiding today. Been in hiding since the Super Bowl. I'm not sure where he is. I had a bad joke that I was going to use, but I think it's probably in bad taste, so I won't. Kenny's doing better. That's awesome. And let's just see. I got a text. Let's make sure it's not. We'll resend. Jim didn't get my link. Keep talking, guys, amongst yourselves. I think I forgot to send him the link. Bear with me a second here, guys, while I send Jim Beringer the link to the show. But anyway, we're going to talk about all that stuff. We'll have Mancini in, as I said, about 10:25. We're going to talk the Major League Baseball lockout. Why he's behind the players. I personally don't know how you get behind anybody in this fight, guys. Look you got millionaires and billionaires. They don't care about anybody else but themselves. They don't care about how this filters down to vendors and people who take care of the parking and the cabbies and the hotels and the restaurant people that surround not just the season, but spring training's lost for a lot of these businesses that rely on the influx of people and the players and their families through this time. And it's just a ridiculously stupid joke and Rob Manfred's comments the other night were just ridiculous. The other day, I guess, when they canceled the first two series. So now we're going to play 1972 for those of us who are old enough to remember, and many of us are, where we're going to have an imbalanced schedule most likely, because not every team played 3-game series these first couple of series of the season. So some teams are probably losing 5. I haven't dove into it that far because I'm not sure that this will be the end of it. But some teams are going to play 5, some are going to play 6, some might play 4. Because these games aren't postponed, they're canceled. So we'll dive into some of that as well. What else we got here? Well, you're the only one that I know of. I didn't really call the game. We'll talk about Coach K and his legacy and his last game at Cameron. We'll talk about that in the college basketball segment as well. But a big win for North Carolina, by the way, because I've talked for weeks now how Carolina likely in a tournament no matter what, but they didn't really have that signature win. Well, they got it yesterday at Cameron Indoor in the biggest moment they could get it. Coach K's final home game. So good for North Carolina and Hubert Davis. That's a big one for them. Heard Mark went to buy steak. He may have bought a steakhouse while he's been gone. Hopefully, that might get his debts paid off. Oh, I missed Rick's comment. What's he saying? May have a purple Vikings. What's Alan got? Texas is losing a series against. Yeah, well, it's gone. And that's important. It's another thing to think about. I believe, and Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, the Yankees would have been going to Texas. Now, I know they probably draw okay, but I bet you the Yankees are a bigger draw than a lot of other teams. Oakland. So again, it affects a lot. I don't know how you get behind either side here. Ohio State, Michigan today, big game, I think, for Michigan today. Well, and again, we'll jump into that a little bit when we look at the scoreboard and the schedule for today with college basketball. Alan, is there any one big thing going on? Other teams, anytime there's a big thing going on, the other team seems to win. It's a good point, Kenny. A lot of distractions for the Duke players, right, in this game. And I want to go too deep into this because I was going to do it during the college basketball segment. We can talk about it for a few minutes while we wait for Jim. Make sure I sent that, by the way. I did. A lot of distractions for the Duke players. With this being Coach K's last home game and a lot of stuff surrounding it. But, if this moment was too big for this team, and it's young, right? Duke in the last few years has gone kind of the one and done route more often than they had in the past. And if this is too big a moment for them, and again, it's a huge moment, don't get me wrong. If this is too big a moment for these kids, what's going to happen here as they get into tournament play, whether it's the ACC and then inevitably the NCAA tournament? Are they going to wilt in those moments as well? Big win for North Carolina. They didn't just win; they waxed their butt. And Alan's confirming it would have been in Texas. Did you see the Innit run out of the court at OT and cost his team? I did not see that, Rick. Fill me in a little bit. I didn't. Let me get to. Excuse me. Let me go to. I'm going to go to my homepage for college basketball and see what I see. I didn't see a story about that. 96 former players, by the way, at the farewell for Coach K. Yeah, so I didn't see that. Interesting. Give me a little more information. We'll certainly talk about that. You know what? Fans, unbelievable. There will be some more teams. There will be some more teams punching their ticket today, by the way. Just an FYI, we'll touch on that real quick again as we wait for Jim Beringer to come in and talk about hockey. We got the Atlantic Sun Conference semifinals are today. Or is that the finals? Hold on, let me get back. This is too hard to read here. How come they're not? When are these? That's a team. That's the thing. Some of these teams, they start their tournaments this weekend, then finish them next weekend. It drives me batty because I can't keep track of the finals here. Now I keep losing my schedule. Damn it. I lost totally what I had. Are you happy now? Damn it. Maybe this is the one. There it is. So I've got semifinals today. Oh, that's where I was. So Missouri Valley Conference tournament is final is today at 2 p.m. with Loyola and Drake looking to become the second teams to get in. These teams could both get in, but we'll see. The American East first round is this week, is today. The Colonial quarterfinals are today. The Patriot League semifinals are today. And the Southern Conference semifinals are also today. The big teams, the big conferences will get started mostly midweek. Most of them, some of them will start probably on Tuesday. The bigger leagues mostly start Wednesday night when we have our show, and we'll certainly talk about that. Wednesday night, we'll probably spend a lot of time on conference tournaments, and then I do plan on doing a show next Sunday night for the selection show. We'll see how that goes. And I should get a secretary, Kenny, and unfortunately, the pay is bad, and I can't get anybody to do it. Texas Tech lost to the only other team not in the Big 12 tournament. I'm not sure following. Anyway, it's 9:10, and I want to make sure we have some time to talk to Jim Beringer. So without further ado, let's get Jim Beringer from the Last Word on Hockey. And he's certainly TGI Sports Talk's man on hockey. Jim Beringer. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning, Keith. How we doing?
Listen, I caught a little bit of your show yesterday. Was Rick Sherlock making fun of your hat yesterday? Did I see some comments?
I don't know if he was making fun of the hat. I think he was just curious to see if it was lighting up. And yes, I did have a light up hat on yesterday.
Well, that's, you're still young enough to wear a light up hat. You're doing well.
Hey, look, I tell everybody, you got to keep them on their toes. I mean, that's the signature right now. So I try to change it up as much as possible.
Oh, Jim, so National Hockey League. You had some changes in your let me pull up your rankings. You had some decent, interesting changes, I thought, this week. And again, in fairness to you, I know a lot of times you've done your rankings on Tuesday and we talk on Sunday. I think you do them on Tuesday, right?
I do them Tuesday night for Wednesday, and this week I had some help because I could not type. So my girlfriend helped me type those up.
Maybe good. She made some of the changes that I was surprised at, but
she did a good job. Definitely. No, she definitely did a good job. She helped me out.
Some interesting moves. I mean, Florida drops from 1 to 6.
And no surprise going in. Yeah, I mean, at that time, no surprise where they were on a little bit of a losing streak, not playing well. Since then, they're back up to where they should be, but the Rangers definitely dropped. They'll be back in this week because some teams, again, when these come out, the teams are on hot streaks, cold streaks, whatever. Yeah. And then it's over. Also, it's not just that, it's just the overall play as well. And at the time the Rangers weren't playing the greatest team game. They're back to playing that team game.
Just real quick, Rick said your podcast partners got a kick out of the ringmaster.
They did.
I think it was Bill Pulver who laid that in. He's the king of nicknames here on this show. And let's see. Kenny says, "Good morning, Jim. The light on the hat was the show. Mark Mancini how to come out of the dark." There's a rumor Mark Mancini's going to be out of hiding today, so we'll see. We'll see if he shows up at 10:25. What else? Tell us what else. What else in the top? Your rankings is important. Again, in all fairness, as I started out saying, as you just explained, you're doing them on Tuesday. I'm kind of reviewing them on Sunday and talking to you about them. But what else has changed that we should know about and really has that much impact on the season as we go forward?
I mean, the LA Kings, for me, they're at 10 right now. Yeah. They'll probably hover around that mark. We'll see how they continue to play. But they're at the point where they need to decide if they want to go all in for the season. They're second right now in the Pacific Division. They're looking to add a defenseman, maybe another scorer. So Rob Blake and Luke Robitaille got to decide, all right, are we going to go all in and make a move for a guy like Jacob Chikrin, who's got a nice cap hit at 4.625 over the next couple of years, plus you get him for 4 playoff runs. So they're going to have to make a decision on what they want to do with defense. For me, the Bruins right now look like a team that could potentially get in the top 3 in that Atlantic Division right now. Yeah. The way they're playing, DeBrusk on that first line. Again, I emphasized on my show yesterday, and I continue to say this, the fact that Bruce Cassidy decided that it was time to break up that top line has given this team so much depth throughout their lineup. It's so nice to see like DeBrusk playing with Marchand and Bergeron, and then you have Pasternak with Hall and Eric Haula. I still think they need another second line center. I mean, Hala's doing his job, but The Bruins for me are playing really well. The Penguins continue to be a team that, I thought they might fall off a little bit this year. It was either going to be the Pens or the Caps this year that were going to be, one of those teams that, their window was going to close and it was going to close real quick. The Penguins are figuring out a way to hold on. Those red hot Calgary Flames continue to play unbelievable. 1-1 now in the last 15 games, how they're playing.
Kings hanging close though. Kings are staying with them for the most part.
But. For the most part, yeah. I mean, that Pacific is, that could, flip a coin if Vegas decides to get hot. There could be a contender there. But I mean, Calgary just went into Colorado last night, won in overtime, probably the best game of the night. Very fun game. So those two teams right there, and then obviously Tampa's, kicking around, right there, top three as well. Carolina's playing the Kings of the Metro right now, though they're doing it without Tony DeAngelo and Brandon Smith. I think they'll add a defenseman. The team to keep an eye on in the West for me is the Dallas Stars, because this team over the last couple of years have always been one of those teams that need like a kick in the pants, especially for guys like Sagan and Ben. And this team right now feels like Columbus a couple of years ago when they knocked off Tampa Bay in that first round. If they get in, they're going to be dangerous because of the way they're playing. Pavelski, showing age isn't an issue for him, and Ottinger back there. So I think the Dallas Stars are a team to keep an eye on.
We've talked about some teams that have made some moves and some that needed a kick in the pants. I mean, who do you see as kind of teetering right now on the brink of maybe falling out of a serious contention?
Nashville, I think that, what they did yesterday, I think they're a team that you got to watch. They got to watch themselves because they need to figure out a way that they keep in that first wild card spot, especially the way Dallas is playing. Edmonton's right there. It's like 5 teams for 2 spots in the Wild Wild West right now. And, Nashville, to me, I think they have to start getting their act together a little bit more. Then they have, Duchesne finally coming back around. Forsberg, there's talks about him moving out of Nashville. So, that team, they got a big win over the Sharks, but that's not saying much because San Jose is just not a good team. But you go on the road into California, that's a nice win right there. So I think maybe they can kickstart their mojo going again with a nice win.
Yeah, this 8-0 final is
8-0. 8-0.
Right?
I mean, like I said, the Sharks are just after their nice start to the season, they just kind of like tailed off a bit, and no fault of their own. They're just not a contender this year like most people thought. Anaheim's starting to teeter right there in the West about one of those teams. They were right there in the Pacific all year. Now they're starting to fall off a bit. So they have a couple of pieces that could move at the deadline with Manson and Raquel and Lindholm. So, yeah, that team's starting to teeter a bit. But, Vancouver's right there. Winnipeg's right there as well, one of those teams. Edmonton, let's see if they can get some goaltending going. The West is where everything is more interesting than the East right now because the East is pretty much just locked up. I mean, the closest team in the East is 10 points with Columbus.
I know Billy Pulver's not with us today. He's a big Winnipeg fan. Any chance Winnipeg's going to get things in gear here? Or
I mean, look, I'm not going to ride them out because they're still in contention at 58 points. I mean, but they have a lot of work ahead of them. They got to put wins together. And, they need Scheifele and Wheeler and those guys to do it. I mean, Kyle Connor has been carrying his team all year, but Connor Hellenbeck is the backbone to that team. Defensively, I think the loss of Dustin Byfuglien, this team really hasn't been the same since that Scheifele hit last year on Evans in the playoffs, kind of changed the trajectory of this team. And, for me, I think, if Hellenbeck can find his form somehow, he hasn't been the greatest this year. It might be an off year for him, but he goes as far as the Winnipeg Jets go. And you could clearly see that with a team in New York with the Rangers. Is Shesterkin is just unbelievable right now for the Rangers, and their reason why they're where they are.
Before we go on here, just a couple of nice little comments for you. Rick's talking about how you sparked his interest in the regular season. He'd only been a playoff viewer before this, which I think a lot of fans probably are in that kind of category. So you're doing your part in sparking interest in the NHL. So great job. And Kenny follows up with he can't believe one man can make hockey interesting. So I think very good compliments for you.
I appreciate that, boys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for following along. Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is like the regular season with these 82 games. Yeah, there's always can be lulls in it, but this is the time of year where it gets interesting because so many rumors. Usually we're past the trade deadline. The trade deadline's March 21st this year. But the thing is, what makes it so exciting right now is that the West and the playoffs, the races are not settled. Like in some other sports where you could see like things already, settled. Right now, the West is wide open. Like I said, you could move in one division from third to out of the playoffs with just like that. So it's so interesting to watch. And even the games and teams in contention, they have to watch out because some of these teams at the bottom are surging, like the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, the Edmonton Oilers found out the hard way on Saturday night that you can't take this Canadiens team lightly anymore under Martin St. Louis, the way they've been playing. Cole Caulfield looks good. Nick Suzuki. This team looks like the team that went to the final last year. It really does. But this time they don't have Carey Price or Shea Weber in the lineup.
Kind of on a topic of what we were talking about a second ago of teams that need to kind of get in gear. Are there some coaches we should be looking at that are maybe coaching for their career? Not well, at least their jobs. Not their career.
I mean, for me, obviously everybody knows that one of the teams I cover is the Devils. Been a big Devils follower for a long time, fan growing up, and I think Lindy Ruff is just biding his time in New Jersey. He's probably on borrowed time. I thought that they would have pulled the trigger maybe earlier in the year, but maybe they decided that there wasn't a better option out there. But I do think there's going to be a coaching change in New Jersey come the offseason. I just don't think this team under Lindy Ruff can take the next step. That type of coach maybe just not what you need in the NHL right now. I mean, Darryl Sutter's proving otherwise, but I think Darryl Sutter has a lot better team than Lindy Ruff does in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. I think Rick Bowness is a name that you need to watch for because of what's going on in Dallas. Again, I bring to the Dallas Stars, but his name was mentioned earlier in the year. If the Dallas Stars couldn't turn things around, he might be out on the chopping block. Those are definitely two names for sure right now that could be on the move.
I will bring this name up in all seriousness. I don't like kid Carlos about bringing it up every time, but is Barry Trotz in any trouble in New York?
No.
Good to know.
No. As long as Lou Lamoriello is the general manager of the New York Islanders, Barry Trotz is not going anywhere.
How about any of the interim guys? Are they going to have a chance? I don't know that any of them done spectacularly well in Chicago or Montreal.
With Montreal, it's all on Martin St. Louis to determine if he wants to keep coaching. Because that was the deal. Because apparently the Canadians offered him a couple-year deal, but he decided to put the interim tag to see if he wanted to really do it and see how far he could take this team and turn this team around. I gotta believe that he'll maybe do a 1 or 2 year deal with Montreal. Again, these coaching changes are great, but you have to carry it into the next season. And I don't know if the Magic can carry over from Montreal. For me, I hope Dean Evison gets an extension in. I think he already got one in Minnesota for what he's done. But I don't know. I don't think Chicago's probably going to look for a permanent head coach for sure in the offseason. Mm-hmm. Just the way things are in Chicago. I think the fact that the new general manager Kyle Davidson came out and said, we're in a full rebuild here. We're not even close to where we think we are. Is a complete change of what the old regime thought. The fact that he got Taves and Kane and Jones in a room telling them this was the story, they respected that. So for me, Chicago's definitely probably going to try to get a veteran coach in there to turn this thing around, though they are in a rebuild.
Quick question here. I think there's roughly, depending on which team we're talking about, 25, 26, something there, games left, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, everybody's around the 50, 55 game mark right now. So, yeah, about 20-something games left, yeah.
So Alan's wondering if you think Ovechkin can get the goal record before then.
Ovi's not getting the
not this year.
No, he's not getting the goal record this year. He can't get it this year, because just how many games there are in a season, and he'd probably have to score like 100 goals, and he's not even on that pace anymore to do that. He's slowed down a bit. So no, if he gets it, I think he has to play over a few more seasons to get it.
Well, I guess I can let my hockey expert answer this question, but I don't think that Ovechkin played with the Hansen triplets. I'm pretty sure.
No, I don't think Ovi played with the Hansons. No, he did not play with the Hansen brothers. No.
By the way, to give hockey a serious plug, one of the most underrated sports movies of all time is Slapshot. If you haven't seen it,
Slapshot's
guys,
such a great movie. Yes, Slapshot's such a great movie. It's a cult movie for hockey fans alike. We love that movie.
It's too funny. I got to put up Alan's response too because he's not sure. So I just answered your question for you, Alan. And I don't mean to laugh. I'm not laughing at you, but I promise you I'm laughing you with it. It was from a movie the Hanson brothers played in Slapshot. So there's no way Ovechkin played with him.
No, he did not. No.
May have played with Ogie Oglethorpe. I don't know.
He might have. He might have played with Ogie Oglethorpe. Definitely.
Oh, gosh. Too funny. Anyway, Alan, don't take offense. We like to have some fun here. So Kenny's telling me it was kind of a joke.
Yeah, it was.
Anyway, we like to have some fun here. Let's move on to, I know a topic you wanted to get into is the, of course, I'm going to pronounce it wrong. You can give me the goalie trophy. What is it? Venzia.
The Vezina. Yeah, the Vezina.
Vezina.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I got to get the N in the right place all the time.
Yeah.
Who's the contenders as you see it, as we stand here today? Still 26 games in a regular season, so a lot can happen.
I mean, you could throw Andrei Vasilevsky in there. You can throw – who else can you throw in there? Vazzy's definitely in there for sure. I think I could put a guy like – how about the Rangers goaltender Igor Shesterkin? Probably should be the runaway favorite to win this thing right now, considering what he's done all year for the New York Rangers. I mean, there was a debate the other day. We'll get into it here about whether or not he should win the Hart Trophy for MVP.
But yeah, I was going to bring that up as well.
Yeah, you got Shesterkin. You might say Freddie Anderson down in Carolina. Maybe Markstrom in Calgary. Those are some contenders right now for me. Obviously, you look at those top teams. There's a reason. Maybe Bobrovsky if he could turn some things around for sure. But for me, and you maybe throw in Jari too in Pittsburgh. You never know how people vote. But for me, I definitely and if Jack Campbell had continued to play as well as he did for Toronto, I think he would have got some votes for the Vezina. But for me, I think it's going to come down to probably Markstrom and Vasilevsky and Shesterkin. And I think Shesterkin's going to win it because I just think his numbers are just so good right now. I mean, look, there's a reason the Rangers are in the position they're in. Outside the fact that they have great players on their team, they're taking the next step. Shesterkin's the reason that they're in the position that they're in. I mean, night in, night out. If you watch this team play, he makes unbelievable saves. I mean, go back to Friday night against the Devils. I mean, the first period alone, the first shot, the first breakaway by Nico Hischier, he had the initial save, and then on the backhand, he made this great pass save so nonchalantly. You thought the Devils were going to take a 1-0 lead. I mean, it was just great to see. Look, so he's making – yes, he has a good defense in front of him, but it's like the old adage when everybody talked about Brodeur and that defense. Well, you know what? When that defense went away, Brodeur still showed that he was the best goalie in the world, and there was some kinks in the armor, and Shesterkin is there to close the door, and he's one of the best goalies in the world, and I think he probably will win the Vezina this year.
What's the and again, I don't know the answer to this. I could have looked it up. I mean, how often do goalies win the MVP trophy? I'm thinking it's not that often.
Not that often. No, it's really not that often. I think a couple have been nominated, but they never won. And to me, like, look, yes, they have the Vezina trophy, right? So that's the best goalie award, right? But the most valuable player is the most valuable player to his team, right, not the best player. So, and it's not the guy with the most points because that's the Art Ross trophy. If you look right now, tell me another player in the league that's more valuable to his team than Igor Shesterkin.
Yeah.
I mean, Jonathan Huberdeau, what he's doing in Florida, but you could take Huberdeau off and that team's probably still going to do what it's going to do. Everybody said, "Oh, Nathan McKinnon should have gotten a Hart Trophy." Yeah, he probably should have a couple years ago, and another one. But it's shown right now when he's been out of the lineup for Avalanche, they've not missed a beat. So everybody says Connor, Leon, Austin Matthews, guys like that. But to me, I mean, why not? I mean, if the guy has the numbers, he's showing he's the best player, most valuable player to his team, I don't see a problem with it. It's rare to see it for sure. I think it's happened like once or twice. That's it.
There's definitely lots of cases where goalies have, carried teams. I mean, you go back to the Islanders in their heyday and Billy Smith, and, we can probably go on from there. A ton of guys who have carried teams. And if the argument is, well, they have their own award, but you know what? The MVP names an offensive and defensive player of the year, and they also name an overall MVP.
Right, exactly.
And, right? Major League Baseball pitchers have the Cy Young Award, but they can still win the MVP.
Exactly.
So I don't think that should be the argument for sure.
No, exactly. It shouldn't. I mean, Carey Price won it. Dominic Hasek's won it. Jose Theodore's won it. So, I mean, goalies have won it. It's rare to see, but they've won it. And maybe because there's been years that they deserve to win it because of their numbers and their play. And I think this year I wouldn't be shocked if Shesterkin's nominated just because of his play.
And I hope we see that, and maybe we'll see the glass ceiling get broken there. What else, Jim? What else should we be looking for with this week to come in the National Hockey League? And with now, I guess we'll have we got 9 days or something like that till the trade deadline.
Yeah, I believe it's 2 weeks now, or a week, 2 weeks.
It's a Tuesday, I think, isn't it?
March 21st. So.
Oh, March 21st.
Yeah.
Why did I write down the 21st? I had the 15th in my head. I don't know why. 2
weeks from tomorrow is the deadline.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to see, for me, this is where teams are going to make or break their season. You're going to find out what teams are going to be really sellers. And the problem is teams want to make moves now, but it's the salary cap getting in the way. A lot of 16 teams at LTIR right now, so they're trying to move space. They're trying to get players in and out. So a lot of this stuff is being held up. But you got to wonder, like, are the dominoes going to start to fall? Who's going to be the first to go? Once the first player gets moved, maybe a Chikrin gets moved, are you going to see the other players fall? I mean, like I said, I think Claude Giroux's a name that's going to definitely move. I know Rick had asked that question yesterday on my show. I think it happens after his 1,000th game as a Flyer. There's probably deals in place with Colorado, with Florida, teams like that. Once that happens, it's going to be like, all right, pick the best deal. This is where you're going for me. And I think that's what's going to happen with Claude Giroux. You're going to see what defensemen are going to be on the move. When does Montreal decide that they're going to be a seller? I mean, guys like Sherratt, Petrie, and Lehkonen have raised their draft stock. Can Carolina make defensive moves? Like, this is, teams are going to really start to separate themselves and going to get the wheels in motion, and the talks are going to pick up to figure out what guys are going where. This is usually when we see action before the deadline. I'm hoping the deadline's pretty active. But usually this is when the wheels get in motion. And I think, maybe if, I think Anaheim may decide that they're going to move out pieces. Is LA going to make some things? But again, it's so hard because with 5 teams in contention, like with Vancouver, for instance, everybody's calling about Vesser and, Garland and JT Miller and Tyler Myers, but they're still in contention. Do they want to pull the trigger? We don't know. So it's definitely things to keep an eye on. What teams finally decide that they're going to pull away. I think we saw it finally in the East. Can teams start to separate themselves in the West? That's something to see.
Yeah.
Which teams can separate themselves? What else does Calgary do? Can Vegas start to turn things around? Is the Jack Eichel curse real? Because it feels like Vegas went the other way since he started joining since Eichel returned. But I think once they get healthy, I think they'll be a good team. But I don't know if they're going to win a cup this year. So, it's so wide open in that West right now.
Yeah, the next 10 days are kind of like the third round of the Masters, which they call moving day at the Masters. As people get in position for the final round, the NHL teams are getting in position to find out what they need to do, whether buy or sell at the deadline for the remainder of the season. So.
Exactly, and the push to the playoffs will be on after March 21st. Everybody's ready to rock and roll, try to get in position and just stay healthy heading into the playoffs.
Definitely. One last thing, and we did talk about this last week, but Kenny wasn't with us because he was a bit laid up with some issues that went on while he was traveling, and he is getting better. So good. We're glad to hear that, Kenny, as he told us earlier in the show. But he wanted to ask about the impact again with the Ukraine and Russia. And real quick, we can kind of recap what your thoughts were last week, or if they've changed a little bit.
No, I mean, pretty much stayed the same. I mean, look, like I said, a lot of the players have just been up against it, but it's just going to be tough because, I'm reading now that's going to be hard for the KHL players to get out, to come and play in the National Hockey League. Teams is hard scouting Russian games because a lot of teams have pulled out. They're not playing, like, especially with the young kids not going to World Juniors, World Championships. If there were KHL free agents, teams wanted to see one last time at the Worlds. They're not going to be able to do that. For drafting purposes, they're not going to be able to scout these young players coming out of Russia. So they're not, it's going to see how many Russians actually get drafted now. It feels like we're going back prior to the Soviet, when the Soviet Union was around, when, guys might have just have to leave under the dark of night to get out of there because of what's going on right now, and try to get drafted and scouted and come into the NHL. So, those are some things. Hopefully, things work themselves out. Players can come over, because I know there's a lot of, free agents. There's one of the top free agents, the KHL, wants to wait till the season is over before he makes the decision on whether or not he wants to come to the NHL. It might be tough for him by the time his season's over and draft season and stuff, for him to come over if there are any, sanctions and stuff put in place for him to travel over here. So it's going to definitely be a situation to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure. Tragic situation, and one that, again, affects, obviously hockey is the least of the things to worry about during this altercation, but it certainly impacts a lot of things going on around the world, not just in that area. So, Jim, thanks as always. Wealth of knowledge. Obviously, you've converted a bunch of people here already.
I love it. Brings a smile to my face.
Our job is to bring education to the world, on the NHL, to the fans of the world, and you're doing a great job of it. So great to have you in again. We'll have you in next week as we get closer to that NHL deadline.
Absolutely. Appreciate it as always. Come on here, spread the knowledge of the NHL game, and can't wait for it. It's going to be pushed to the trade deadline right now and then pushed to the playoffs. But guys, thanks for tuning in and having me on, and, just humbled by the comments.
Well, you definitely are the last word on hockey for us. So thanks for coming in. Have a great Sunday.
Hey, you too. Have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye. Bill Pulver, the actual. Good morning, Billy Pulver. You just popped in. You just missed the ringmaster who was, as Rick had said, his Jim's cohorts on his hockey show were really kind of tickled by the ringmaster nickname, which I believe you bestowed on him. And yes, thank you. Very interesting. We're going to talk about this. Jordan Davis, by the way, I have seen going to you may hate this, Rick, going to the Patriots in the first round. I've seen several mock drafts so far, which we'll get to the NFL in a second. I want to get into college basketball a little bit first. And talk about what happened yesterday, what news and notes we've got going on. Then we'll jump into the NFL, and then we'll probably have Mark Mancini in. The rumor is he has come out of hiding. We'll find out whether that's true or not. So let's talk just a little bit about college basketball. The top story of the weekend, and it was a bit anticlimactic for Duke fans, but it was Coach Mike Krzyzewski's last home game at Cameron Indoor Arena. Tickets were going for like $3,000 courtside yesterday. And it was a bit of a downer. Big game, big win. Not getting lost in all this it was a big one for North Carolina as far as their seeding in the upcoming NCAA tournament, because they had not won really a signature game in my mind all year long. They've got a good record, but had not really had that big signature win. This was it, over, depending on what poll you're looking at, one of the top 4 teams in the country. Now, I'm not a signature Duke team or a classic Duke team, if you will, but this game was very important and anticlimactic. Maybe the kids, the moment was too big for them, But as I've said a couple of times on this show, and I said it this morning on the Mac and Jack show with co-hosted by Jim Jeffcoat, by the way. If you catch the first hour of that show before you come over here, guys, Jim Jeffcoat, former Dallas Cowboys, one of the co-hosts, really great guy. Had him on my show here back last fall. And he's also got a show on NESIP that he co-hosts with Byron Williams as well. But we were talking about this morning that whether you love Coach K and Duke or hate Coach K and Duke, which, again, they're a very polarizing program, you cannot diminish what he's accomplished in the last 43 years at Duke. And with Coach K and Jim Boeheim, with only a few years, which I'll talk about in a second, probably at best left at Syracuse, maybe one for all we know. You're not going to see this type of thing. He's got 46 years in at Syracuse. You're not going to see. You name me another coach, unless he's already way up there, which I don't think there are guys in that situation. You name me guys that are going to be 40 years at a school ever again. I mean, there's guys that got some like tenure now and a legacy building, like Bill Self at Kansas. I'm trying to think of some other guys. He's the one that comes to mind. Jay Wright at Villanova. But they're not going to have 40-year careers at these schools. It's just not going to happen. There's too much money. They make too much money too soon. So there's no reason to stick around 40 years unless you're really passionate about the game, which obviously you have to be. But I don't think you're going to see the likes of this again. So love these guys or hate these guys, you need to really realize and appreciate what we've been able to witness for the last 4 decades. You know, I'm 19 years old when Coach K takes his team. Amazing. Oh, let's see. Got a few comments here. Just to touch on this, I'll get back to this at football time. Remind me to go back here. I just do not think, I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. That's not the type of player the Patriots need at wide receiver. They need wide receiver, but they need a guy who can get down the field. I don't think Omar Cooper is the kind of guy that'll do that. We'll see. We'll see. A lot of rumors about the Jets, and I don't like that rumor either. But let's stick with college basketball. We'll go back to that, I promise. Duke did go cold in the last 10 minutes. And you know what? It made for a very weird, somber ceremony after the game. And Coach K kind of set the tone because he was so down and apologized for their effort that day. But still, I mean, the ceremony was about the last 43 years, not yesterday. Yeah, you hate to lose to your most hated rival in your last game at home. And it was kind of payback for, I think it might have been 3 weeks ago that Duke had gone to Carolina in Krzyzewski's last game at the Dean Dome, and they shellacked North Carolina on the road by about 20. And it's possible that the distractions, as I said at the top of the show, and all this hoopla was too much for these players. The moment was too big for these players because it's a young team. But I mean, that might be a harbinger of things to come. If this moment was too big, and it was maybe it's a bigger moment than playing in the NCAA tournament later on. There's going to be other big moments. Are these kids going to come up small again? We'll find out. McNeese State was a game where the idiot ran on the court and cost his team a game in 4 overtimes. That had to be. Let me see, Rick. Where's McNeese play? That had to be a tournament game, perhaps, wasn't it? Where's McNeese play? Talk amongst yourselves. McNeese. No, I guess that tournament hadn't started yet. I don't think the Southland Conference had started yet, did it? Let me look at my little cheat sheet for conference tournaments. Southland. Yeah, that starts next weekend. So if that had been a tournament game, that would have been even worse, right? You know what? And teams, there's going to be people who say that the team shouldn't be penalized. But you know what? You got to find a way to control your fans and keep them off the courts. If there's rules that apply, then don't go crying if your team gets one of your fans cost you the game. It's no different than people interfering with balls and play in baseball, right? Stop. Carlos, welcome, Carlos. You're a little late this morning, but welcome. You missed a Barry Trotz talk earlier. The arena was packed. I think you're talking about Cameron. It's always packed, but yes, Billy, we are glad you're back. I'll agree with Rick there. I don't want to get into. I want to stick with. We'll come back, Alan. Make sure that you bring up your Cooper talk when we get into the next segment here. Those teams like Baylor, Arkansas that played a swarming defense will be a strong contender. I agree. You all know how I feel about Arkansas. If you've been watching this show, if you've been watching the Wednesday Sports Huddle, College Sports Huddle, you know that I'm all over Arkansas, and my money's where my mouth is. They did lose yesterday. It's funny. And again, I read, the way they portray these games sometimes. There was a headline yesterday on ESPN or one of the sites that I kind of monitor, looking at scores, and it was Tennessee upsets or Arkansas upset in the SEC, and I'm like, wait a minute. They played at Tennessee, who I believe, depending on the poll, is ranked ahead of Arkansas. So is that a bad loss for Arkansas? No. Rick asked me yesterday if I thought it'd affect their seeding. Well, yeah, quite possibly, but it's not like that's a bad loss, right? It's not like, they lost at home to Ole Miss. That'd be a bad loss, and that would seriously affect their seeding. But, this is not a bad loss for Arkansas. And I do expect them to do well yet in a tournament. I hope they haven't peaked too soon because they've been very hot for the last month. And I do think that they'll continue. And you're right, though, Kenny. These teams, they play a swarming defense. The thing that they have to be careful of it, and Auburn plays kind of a chaotic game as well. And they have to be careful once you get to the NCAA tournament, because you need a half-court game as well, rather than just transition and forcing turnovers and whatnot, because these games tend to turn into more possession-by-possession games, at least near the end. So, but Baylor and Arkansas will, and if they go deep, those teams have to go deep, too. They have to have a lot of guys to keep fresh to be able to press like that. So I do think both of those schools. Right now, I'm on the precipice of moving Baylor on the 1 line. I haven't got them there yet. They're still on the 2. Arkansas will drop. I think I had them on the 3 line the other night, which I did. They'll probably fall off. But you know what? Again, when you get 1 and 2, 3 and 4, it's not that huge a difference. The power of Duke recruiting is certainly not to be or dismissed, right? Here's the thing you forget about. And I'll talk about this in relation to Coach K and Jim Boeheim as the 2 examples that I just talked about. I don't understand Syracuse fans, and I saw a bunch of posts yesterday on Facebook about, because Jim Boeheim now has a second succession plan in place. There was one back in, I want to say 2014 or 15, where Mike Hopkins, his number 1 assistant, was going to replace him. And there was a timeline, I believe, set. And then Jim Boeheim said, I decided I'm not leaving. And Mike Hopkins ended up taking a job at Washington, which was working out for him for a while, not so well right now. But this is a second time. And we don't know who's been designated, but Boeheim says there is a guy in place to take over. And I saw a lot of stories and comments on Facebook and other social media that, thank God he's going. It's about time. Jim Boeheim has always gotten a bad rap in my mind. And when Jim Boeheim leaves, in my mind, Syracuse may fall off the basketball map. Just my opinion. Jim Boeheim has his flaws, and Syracuse made a horrible mistake leaving the Big East and going to the ACC. But I really think Boeheim is that one thing that's kept this team relevant, maybe the last decade. And he's been doing it for 46 years, guys. And you talk about recruiting. I think there'll be a huge impact in Syracuse. I think there'll be an impact, obviously, in Duke. When a guy the stature of Coach K steps down, they're not going to get some of these automatic guys that they would get in the past. So let's see what else we got here. That school has a coach that won, you have to win. I'm kind of lost with that one, Carlos. Maybe you can make it a little clearer for me. NC players played the entire second half. NC played great basketball yesterday. Hubert Davis has got that team playing. They've had a really decent first year. Again, the knock on them was they had won against the better competition. All their losses were against some of the worst competition they played. But the team is, where is it? What are they now? Let's see. Let me move up here. Too many teams in basketball, right? Carolina's moved into third place, actually a second place tie with Notre Dame at 15-5 in the ACC and 23-8 overall. So again, the record is there. It's a matter of who they have beaten or not beaten. And yesterday was a big win for North Carolina, definitely. I've been saying Wednesday Duke has hours, and I think they will go out early. It's possible. I'm not sure what that hours is supposed to be. Holes, maybe. I'm not sure what you got there, Rick. But I get what your point. I don't think this is a classic championship run Duke team. Duke's gotten more in this one and done mindset in the last few years, where they didn't, when that became in vogue, and John Calipari most likely was the guy who got started at Kentucky, but it became the thing to do. And this team is I think it's young, and I think it will be. That helps as far as holes. Yeah, I thought that's what you meant. I will say the refs really let them play ball. They did, and I think as a rule, refs should. I mean, look, at basketball can be a rough sport. And I know who wants to see games called. I don't want to see referees take over games, whether it's football or basketball or baseball's a little bit different. They can control the game more with strike zones and stuff like that. But basketball is a game that really the referees can take the game away from the players. And I think they need to let them play ball. And they tend to do that as we get towards tournament time and into the tournament. You're going to see teams get used to play ball. You're talking about Missouri Valley was the Ohio Valley Conference title game. You're right. Murray State. I don't know what I just said. But Murray State does come away with the automatic bid there. Most likely that's going to be the only bid that they get in that league. Belmont was the second place team. We talked about it a little bit on Friday. I don't see them getting a second bid. Again, it's hard for me to keep track of some of these. Trying to look back at your comments, Alan, to see if there's something else. We'll talk about that. Or was I? I'm not sure what you're referring to, Alan. That's fine. The new coaches now have no idea what a lifelong commitment is, and that's the way it goes. I agree, Kenny, and there's a lot of things that go into it, right? I mean, it's the money, it's the nomadic nature of coaching in the games today. We see it in college football as well as college basketball. We see it in the pros in a lot of cases. Guys don't stay that long. I mean, Bill Belichick has been with the Patriots for 20 plus years. Are we going to see that again? You're not. The Tom Landrys, the Chuck Knowles, the Bill Belichicks, those things are gone. You're going to see more guys like a Bill Parcells who, burns out in one place and goes to another, and goes to another, and goes to another. Same thing in college. Especially as coaches at the blue blood schools, the Kentuckys, the Dukes, the Carolinas don't stay. Coach Williams at Carolina had a long stint at Carolina, but he wasn't there relatively speaking, 20 plus years. But he had a long career at Kansas before that. So now as the blue blood schools turn over coaches more, then the teams at the mid-majors are going to turn over more. Well, nobody's staying in the mid-major because they all want to get to the power conferences, right? Bill Self is a great example. As he came to Kansas from, it just went out of my head where he came from. Bill Self, help me out, guys. I want to say Evansville, but I'm not positive. I know somebody will help me out there. Bench player. I don't know who we're talking about there. Hey, Billy. Sometimes I'm not sure where I lose myself in these conversations. Fun fact, Oklahoma beat Arkansas by 22 back in December. That's a long time ago, Alan, and you're right. And they can hang their hat on that, and they'll enjoy their NIT bid. But Arkansas is going to contend for the national championship because this is by far a different team that's playing for the Razorbacks and Coach Eric Musselman right now than Oklahoma saw back in December. Oklahoma did have some nice out-of-conference wins early on for sure in the first season under Oh my God, one of the guys I love. And again, here we are with our Prevagen moment of the day. Why can't I think of his name? Oh my God, this has got to stop. Don't get old. I know a couple of you guys might be older than me. I know his name like I know the back of my hat, and it just won't pop into my head. Isn't that terrible? Thank you, Potter Mosier. God, jeez, I'm sure somebody posted it here in the meantime. What do you got there, Kenny? Personally, I wouldn't want to play Purdue. Purdue's an interesting case here. Again, they're going to be a contender, still a contender to be on the one line. Definitely, probably on the two, if not. They haven't played as well recently. Purdue's big problem, interestingly enough, is their defense. They don't play enough defense, and that's been their forte for decades. They were a plotting offense, and they didn't play. They played great defense. Now it's kind of reversed. They've got a pretty high-powered offense with two big men, really good big men, but they're not playing much defense at all. But Purdue is, again, this is a wide-open tournament. Don't go to sleep on UConn. I've got UConn on the top 4 seed line. I got them on the 4 line. This could all change, depending. Some of these teams go out in the first round of their tournaments, and I'll update my seed line on Wednesday, and we'll see where it all ends up. But this is wide open. I mean, I could give you at least 16 teams that could win this whole thing, I think. Duke will fall tad after he leaves. There's no way Duke can maintain the level of excellence that they've had over the last 43 years. Were there a couple of down years? Yeah, there were some down years at the very beginning. There were people at Duke that didn't think Mike Krzyzewski was going to cut it there, and he was a bad hire out of Army. But they had the right guy, and everybody has a few down years. St. Mary's and TCU are Allen's dark horse teams. Look at TCU's played really good basketball down the stretch. They beat Kansas last weekend, almost beat them again the other night. St. Mary's knocked off Gonzaga and that Western Collegiate Conference. What is it? Yeah, Western Collegiate Conference, close enough. That they play in with the Gonzaga is probably going to get 3 seeds. That's often been a one-bid league, unless Gonzaga were to lose the conference tournament. It's a 2-bid league now. And St. Mary's, by the way, has had a decent basketball team for a long time now as far as mid-majors go. I do think St. Mary's can make a run here. And I've actually got St. Mary's on the 4 line as well right now. I think Lenardi had them at a 6 last time I looked, and I've got them on the 4 line right now. Syracuse coach leaves, it would benefit the team. I don't see that in any way, sense, or any sense, Kenny, with a guy with the cachet of Jim Boeheim. Their big problem is not Jim Boeheim. Syracuse's big problem is they moved to the ACC, and where football is king, basketball is irrelevant. It's not like the basketball team had a choice. They didn't go there because they wanted to go there. They went there because the football team was going there. And that's happened. I've talked about it a couple times. It's been a ruination of Pittsburgh, of Syracuse, of Boston College, to name 3 that were really good Big East competitors for decades. That's been the big problem at Syracuse. The coach is not the problem. The coach is an icon. The coach has been able to bring guys from California to Syracuse. Who else was going to be able to do that? UConn's good and not elite, I agree. But you know what? I'm not willing to say anybody's elite. Gonzaga's the number 1 seed in the tournament right now. They could go out in the first couple rounds. Anybody could get beat by anybody right now. Yeah, I was going to bring that up here in a second, Rick. In fact, we'll talk about it real quick while we're on this topic so I don't lose track of it. Where are you? There we go. Right now, this is as of this moment. Lenardi's last 4 in: Rutgers, Xavier, which I'm a little surprised at. Xavier's been Xavier's been terrible for a month. Memphis with Penny Hardaway rebounding and maybe the coach of the year in the AAC. Although Kelvin Sampson's got to be the guy to beat. He's got Loyola Chicago back in after dropping them out last week. Michigan, where does he have Michigan? Last 4 buys. So he's not one of the last 4 in, Rick. The last 4 in would be the teams I mentioned: Rutgers, Xavier, Memphis, and Loyola. So they would have to play in the first 4. The last 4 buys, which I think means I want to say they're 11 seeds, because I think the teams from the first 4 end up on the 12 line. Depending, I guess it depends on who wins it. But the last 4 buys are Carolina now, San Francisco, also from the Western Athletic Conference, Wyoming, and Michigan. So that they're actually a little better than just the last 4 in. And Rocky Howard will come back for sure here for the Big Ten tournament, I think starting on Wednesday night. We'll be talking about all of that on Wednesday. Yeah, that's what I said, Kenny. They've been irrelevant since joining the ACC, and it's no fault of Jim Boeheim or the basketball program, really. It's a fault of the administration in general and moving to the ACC for football reasons. And this is going to happen to a lot of schools, and has happened to a lot of schools as some of this realignment has happened. I gave you 3 examples of the old Big East teams that were always competitive, almost always competitive, and, had some good, rich basketball history that have been totally irrelevant in the ACC for the most part. Boeheim's had a couple of teams that got hot at the end of the season that looked and got one to the Final Four, I think in 2016, maybe 2015, maybe it was 2015, one of those 2 years. But wasn't a classic Syracuse team. Pittsburgh's been nowhere. Porter Mosier, thank you for that, Alan. My little brain fade there. Yeah, I know. Billy, you and Kenny are older. I just feel older, I guess. Anthony Price, good morning. You give up on your Oregon Ducks in basketball and football? Well, I wouldn't count them out in football, but they're probably not getting in the tournament. Talking about them, Lenardi does not have them in. He's got them in their next 4 out. So the first 4 out, Indiana, who's had a good year, as I've said, under first-year coach Mike Woodson, who was a great player at Indiana and a good coach at the NBA for a lot of years. He's done a good job the first year, but he hasn't been able to. He's not going to get them in the tournament. It doesn't look like. BYU, SMU, and Virginia Tech. The first 4 out. Next 4 out are VCU, Florida, Oregon, and Dayton. Some pretty good teams there, by the way. Billy stays all in Gonzaga. Stay true to that school. I agree. Tired of that defense. We're talking about Syracuse and the zone defense. Look at that's been his forte, and you can't deny Jim Boeheim. I believe Jim Boeheim only trails Mike Krzyzewski in career wins among Division I basketball coaches, and he had 110-ish taken away. For some violations, which, by the way, before you jump on that, happens to almost everybody, except maybe Coach K. Texas Tech is falling apart at the wrong time. I agree, Alan. This team, who I was pumping up a lot, as well as you were a few weeks ago, they seem to have peaked too early and are stumbling. They can right themselves in the conference tournament. That will help them improve their lot, but we'll have to see what happens there. I do want to move on to football pretty soon here. Brittany Grinner is stuck in Russia. If I was Putin, I wouldn't mess with her. Quick change. What are your thoughts on Phil Mickelson? If we're talking about his comments about the Saudis and whatnot, I mean, it'll blow over. I mean, what in the grand scheme of things, what does it matter what Phil Mickelson has to say about anything? Or any other sports guy has to say about anything? Who cares? I don't care. As long as it's not, I guess there's certain things I should care about if they came out spewing. But again, there's talks about him, and I believe also joining a tour over there for money, right? A breakaway tour, a breakaway league. I'm sorry, breakaway tour from the PGA Tour. So I don't know. Phil Mickelson's his own guy. He thinks differently. He's certainly a guy who likes his money. And Kenny, you talk a lot about how it's for money. This is probably what this is all about for sure for Phil Mickelson. And, he's a different cat. He has 100 plus against Division II in Canada. Well, Canada. Well, let's look at how many Mike Krzyzewski has against Division II. Actually, they don't play Division II teams in these. They play lower division NCAA 1 schools, but I don't think I guess they do play a little bit of Division II. I'll give you that. But I'll pull Krzyzewski's record apart if you want, and I'm sure we'll find him. Dean Smith, they've all got him. I don't know about Canada because I don't know who they're playing in Canada. Texas Tech lost to the Cowboys. Oklahoma State, bad loss. Oklahoma State is not a good basketball team. The Florida player Johnson, who had a heart attack and was, that was actually a great story. He'd been out, I think, let me see if it's still up here on the news line. I should have written that down. I like to bring up these little human interest stories too, Rick. So see if it's still here. Here it is. Gaius Johnson. He's been out since 2020. Since he collapsed on the court and had a heart attack, and he did make a little token appearance, kissed the logo at midcourt, and it's a nice story. And no matter, again, we get jaded so much talking about some of this stuff, the negative side of sports, right? We all get there. We're going to go there in a second. But this is a nice moment, I think, for both of these guys. I think I'm going to go on to the NFL right now. There's a couple other things I could just chat about, but I certainly want to dive too deep into this. We've got all Wednesday night to talk college basketball as well. Kenny's got great smells coming from the kitchen. I can smell it from here. Thanks, Kenny. I'll be heading out to the Ripe Tomato, by the way, after this. Since we're talking about food, I'll give you a little food update for Keith. Got to beat my dad, a little belated birthday celebration. We were away on vacation when his birthday came, and then they were busy last weekend. So we're getting together today for brunch at the Ripe Tomato up in Malta. So that'll be fun. I was out last night at De Raymond's in Latham. If you haven't been to De Raymond's, great Italian restaurant. I would recommend it to everybody. Get reservations, though, guys. Very busy place and very small. So anyway, there's my food update. Kenny's got muffins. Actually, Kenny doesn't know what he's getting for breakfast. It just smells good. Let's move on. I can circle back with some. I know you guys had some NFL stuff you wanted to chat about, so bring those topics back up. And we'll finish up with the NFL before Mark Mancini gets in here. We're in the middle of the combine, and I'll wait for you guys to talk about. Bring up your comments about Cooper and whatnot. We're in the middle of combine. I want to start with the combine real quick because to me it's overblown. I don't know, wall-to-wall coverage of the combine on a weekend. I turned on ABC yesterday, think I was going to get a basketball game. I got the combine. There's just not enough going on, and it doesn't matter. There's not enough football-related stuff. I don't need to see how. I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing important that happens there. The NFL marketing machine is just amazing that they can get us interested, and the really geeky guys can watch 4 or 5 days at a combine, wall to wall, and I just don't care that much. Yeah, I might be interested, as Rick said, about Davis's 40-yard time, and I might be interested in some of the guys that the Patriots are checking out, but I'm not going to sit there and watch it for 4 hours. The NFL marketing machine is amazing how they can keep themselves relevant. We just went from the season to the playoffs to the Super Bowl, the combine, free agency, the draft, OTAs, training camp, regular season. Never out of the news. The NFL does a great job with this. I just don't think it's something that I want to see. You guys can put up any comments that you have about and I want to get into all these topics. So what free agent wide receiver would I want New England to get? You know what? It's really interesting, Alan. I've made some notes on this a couple of times. Some of the names that have come up, I don't think are in their price range. Juju Smith, I do not think is in their price range. There's been talk about I can't find my little note there. There's been talk about some other guys. I just don't think they're in their price range. There's been talk about Calvin Ridley, who's got all the talent in the world, but I don't like the baggage that he brings. I might bring him on if they weren't talking about a second-round draft pick and a player, Winovich, the linebacker. I'm not interested in that trade. I think they may find a guy in a draft, but the Patriots haven't had good luck in the first or second round with wide receivers, so I don't know they're going to go that path. So I'm really torn who I want. They need to improve that position. I think Bourne is set. They brought Jacoby Myers back in. I mean, here's a big thing when you're talking about free agents with the Patriots. They got 9 now with Jacoby Myers in, unrestricted free agents. Word is they're not going to franchise Jackson, the cornerback. So I don't know that wide receiver is their number one priority. I think it's cornerback, and I think it's linebacker and getting more athletic. They'll find a wide receiver somewhere, and if they have to go without Aguiar again as a deep threat, then that's what they're going to do. I'd love to see a Juju Smith come in here, assuming he can stay on the field. Amari Cooper, not a fan. Not a big fan. I mean, not enough to bring him into New England. And again, if they cut him, they'll be able to sign him for a cheaper contract. I understand that. And he makes more sense for the Patriots than he does somebody like the Jets. I mean, there's been a lot of rumors. You read some of the New York papers that the Jets are interested in Cooper. The Jets aren't in a position yet to be signing guys like Amari Cooper. Next year, I think the Jets would be able to make a reach like that and potentially hit a gold mine. But they're not ready yet. They're still too early in their development, and they are making strides. So you Jet fans can be happy about that. So, Alan, right now I'm a little torn. I'll probably be able to give you a better read on this in a week or so. I just right now I don't like their options. Again, the guys that they would really want, I don't think they're going to be in play for. Well, I will tell you this: a guy that I want, and I don't think they're going to be in play for because I think he'll want too much money because he's not going to have many more chances at this type of payday. Probably is Braxton Berrios out of the University of Miami, who they drafted originally. And I said it right on draft day. He was a 6th-round draft pick, and I said they got their next Walker. They got their next Edelman. And it didn't work out for Berrios because of injuries and some other things. And he moved on to the Jets. And right now he's turned into, at least for the moment, he's got to do it over an extended period of time, he's turned into a Julian Edelman type player. He returns kicks. He returns punts. He can be involved in the offense as a slot receiver. Very underrated free agent who's going to be in very great much demand this year. I think is going to be Braxton Berrios. Yeah, I was thinking if Rodgers leaves Packers and doesn't win, it would be fantastic too, Kenny. I mean, you saw my post yesterday, right? What did I put up yesterday? I got to find this post. I don't know if I can share it or not. Hold on. I think I can. Like the little train that could. There I am. Hey, I'm live. Look at that. Let's see if I can open this up or not. Can I share this? Since you brought this up, Kenny, let's just see if I can share this. I got to be able to find it. So Google Chrome. There it is. Got to share this with you guys. Am I sharing it? I hope you can see it okay. This is Charles Barkley commenting on Aaron Rodgers. I think he's the pretty girl that you got to tell her every day, or you got to tell her she's pretty every day. That's Aaron Rodgers. And, maybe Aaron Rodgers doesn't care about the bad publicity. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But Aaron Rodgers, look at some of the landing places for him. Denver. I heard Tampa Bay. If he goes to Tampa Bay, he's a nut because Tampa Bay is going to be gutted this year as far as losing guys. They don't have a running back. They've lost half their offensive line. They're going to be free agents. I think Goodwin is after his injury last year. He's also potentially not coming back. So that team's like going to be devoid of talent. I don't know why he would want to go there. I've heard Cleveland mentioned, and maybe Baker Mayfield going back to Green Bay. That would be an interesting scenario, but I'm not sure how well he'd go to get along with the head coach there, Kevin Stefanski, myself. But you're right, Kenny. I think it would be very interesting if he were to go somewhere else and lose. And I think it would be very, very fitting for him to maybe get an appreciation for what he actually had in Green Bay and didn't take full advantage of. Cole Beasley is seeking a trade from Buffalo, which is kind of big news, which is what Kenny and Billy are talking about here. Cole Beasley's had, a couple pretty good years in Buffalo, and there's rumors of him potentially going to the Colts and a few other places. But I'm not a huge Cole Beasley fan. Never was. I don't like his. I don't know. There's something about Cole Beasley that always turns me wrong. Good point. Alan brings up Allen Robinson for the Patriots. Probably somebody that the Patriots would be able to afford and still get decent production out of. And again, I mentioned this to you the other day, Alan. This is a guy that I've got in the back of my radar, and I'm going to continue to do a little bit of research on Allen Robinson, and we're gonna find out. He could be a guy that the Patriots could definitely be interested in. That's a good point. I'd forgotten about that one. Didn't jot that down. You brought it up the other day. There is talk about Michael Gallup. Good point. I just saw this the other day. Michael Gallup from the Cowboys, who I think again would be a great fit for this team, assuming what you always have to remember, Alan, with the Patriots, they're going to have to fit the salary structure they have. They are not going to overpay for anybody. And that's the thing you got to keep in mind. Jets rebuilding the defense. Jets have done it. You know what? Look at. I said this early in the year. I say it, and I talk about the Jets a lot. So if you don't catch the co-hosting slot I have with Dan Harris on Let's Talk Sports, and it's Let's Talk New York Sports. We do it 2:00 on Fridays. We talk a lot of the Jets, and I warned Jet fans early this year: don't get wrapped up in the record this year. And what you want to see is growth and improvement through the course of the year. And you did see that. If you're watching close enough, you saw it. Not a Jet fan. I'm not here to sing their graces. But if I'm a Jet fan, you should be encouraged. And it's important not to take too big a step, too big a reach now for an Amari Cooper or somebody like that. Spend your money to continue to improve the secondary. Continue to improve the offensive line. Did a great job in the draft last year getting Moore and Michael Carter, who I said then, if you remember, was a steal at the fourth pick. Michael Carter, the running back out of North Carolina, had a really good first year with the Jets, probably better than they expected. So if you're the Jets, stay the course. Gallup does need to come back from an ALC. Good point. Rick. Cole reminds me of the Golden Richards. Ow. Sorry about that. Golden Richards. I think Golden Richards are probably a better player. I don't know. Nice comparison, though. We had to go back in the time machine, Kenny. Cowboys are going to try and get Gallup back, though. Probably they can't let Cooper and Gallup go. Because, Dak has got to have some weapons to work around for sure. Another interesting point that's going to come up here is some of the quarterbacks in the draft, and we'll dive into this more. I do hope to have a mock draft on the I think we'll do it on the College Football Huddle show. before the draft, and I'm going to start lining up guys to draft. So, Kenny, I hope you can be involved for the Packers, as I've talked about. We got Allen for the Cowboys. We have to have some guys double up because I doubt I'm going to get 32 guys. But I'm going to start making a list here shortly, and I'll probably start posting it to the page and fill in some of you guys, and hopefully you can commit to doing it. Billy, you can pick for the Jets. Carlos has already said he'll pick for somebody else. He won't even pick for the Giants. He'll pick for another team if we can get somebody to pick for the Giants. So anybody Rick, you mentioned Bobby. So I'll talk to Johnny Dove about the Rams. That you said he was a fan of the Rams when he was a kid. So we're going to do that. Interesting thing is going to be the quarterbacks. You got the Panthers, the first team probably picking that's going to need a quarterback. Are they going to take Pickett or Willis? Or will they trade down? I'm not sure these guys are really, first 10 pick guys. And you got Ritter. It's not a deep draft. And when Ritter, who I like, Desmond Ritter from Cincinnati, I do like him. But I don't see him projecting as certainly an NFL starter anytime soon. He could develop into one, and he could develop into a very good backup quarterback. But it's going to be interesting when he's the fourth best quarterback in the draft. And last year, Mac Jones was he the fourth or fifth best quarterback in the draft, according to the position they were drafted in. It'd be very interesting to see. We got a few minutes left here before we get hopefully the missing Mark Mancini on at 10:25. Oh, Alan, what do you got here? I have the Jets going O-line at 4, defensive back at 10. Well, you and I had this conversation yesterday, and I would have them taking Thibodeau at 4 if he's available. If he's gone, I see them going offensive line. And then at 10, I think if they can get Gardner, definitely at 10, they're going to go quarterback. It might, or cornerback. It might make a difference. Again, maybe it's best player available at that point on offensive line or defensive line or defensive back. But if I'm the Jets again, and I'm at 4, I know you talked about, his stock dropped a little bit, but you don't find pass rushers with the talent of Thibodeau out of Oregon very often. And I think the Jets are going to have a hard time passing on him if he's there. CJ Lamb will definitely be a number one wide receiver in that offense going forward. He's really, really turned into a really nice player. And how many times can I say really in one sentence is probably the next topic. And I'll take the Giants. I think we'll get somebody on the Giants, Alan. So if I need to double you up, it might be somebody other than the Giants. So we'll talk more as we get closer. I'm going to sit down this week and try to come up with some dates for that. It'll probably be the Wednesday before the draft, which starts on a Thursday night. So I think that'd probably be the perfect night to do it. It'll be after the NCAA tournament. We'll be kind of in between, college football really kind of kicking in. And this is, kind of the last hurrah for these kids in their college career as they become quarterbacks or pros quarterbacks. I have Ritter going to the Giants after the round 2. I'm not sure Ritter's going in the first round. And I think that's a reach in round 1 for the Giants. And I'm not sure that they'll draft a quarterback, to be honest with you. I think it's going to depend on free agency. I think they may bring in Mitchell Trubisky. I still think they bring in Mitchell Trubisky to compete with Daniel Jones for that starting nod. Cowboys should, that's not going to happen, Kenny. Dak Wilson's ingrained there. His contract is probably prohibitive for another team to take on. I'm sure he's got some no trade provisions in there. And I'll tell you another thing. I don't think Russell Wilson's going anywhere. Pete Carroll loves Russell Wilson. I know Russell Wilson wants to get some more weapons around him and needs to have some more weapons around him. Seattle is certainly as bad this year as they've been at any point since the first year of Pete Carroll's regime there, I would say. But I don't think Russell Wilson's going anywhere. There are rumors about him going to Green Bay if Rodgers moves, and there'd be a whole, oh gosh, Sorry, words just escaped me today. I don't know about Ritt. I think Ritt will be a quarterback. I really do. He's a great athlete. I mean, do I think he could turn into a wideout as a slot receiver type guy? Yes, that's the direction that Julian Edelman took. Julian Edelman was a quarterback throughout his college career at Kent State. And the Patriots turned him into a wideout. Actually, he didn't even play wideout when he got to the Patriots. He played very little, except on special teams, his first 3 or 4 years. You're talking about the trade of, I agree. Offensive line is so important in this league. You can have all the talent in your world. The Giants need to get better on the offensive line. Daniel Jones didn't have a horrendous year this year, especially compared to his first couple years. He turned the ball over less, but still not enough time to throw the football. Saquon Barkley coming back from an injury. I don't really know how to judge. He had some minor aches that kept him out of games, but sometimes it takes guys 2 years to come back from these injuries. But with the Giants' offensive line as poor as it is, I don't know how I can judge Saquon Barkley on this past year. I don't think there's any way he's going anywhere either, by the way. If anything, Wilson would go to Philly. I think Philly, you're right. I think they like Hurts because I didn't like Hurts. And I thought Philadelphia would win 4-5 games this year, tops. They made the playoffs with Hurts as their quarterback. And I think there's enough there for them to continue down that road. And I don't think they're going to be bringing in, Russell Wilson with a lot of miles on him. Don't forget, Russell Wilson may not be old compared to some guys that have played quarterback recently. One that I can think of comes right to my head. But he does have a lot of miles on him because he's had to carry that offense so much, most of his career there. I don't, you know what? First of all, Romo and Dak, oh gosh, I don't know how I want to say this. I think Dak is better than Romo. I really do. And I think the big problem, and you're not going to know whether Dak is that great a quarterback and a winner until Jerry Jones is out of the picture. You need a real personnel guy in there to get a real team together, a coaching staff that schemes the right way to the strengths of the team. You don't need Dak Prescott. You're not going to win Dak Prescott throwing the ball, 40 or 50 times a game. They can't win that way. Not when you got two of the best running backs in the league. But too often I see them throwing down after down after down. And who schemes on this team? And again, I think a lot of the scheming, as well as the roster, has great input from the owner. Barkley's on the trade block. He is on the trade block, but I really don't see him going anywhere. The contract and the injury, I think, are going to prohibit the Giants from getting any real value in return. So I think you're going to see Barkley back with the Giants. Again, they may bring a guy in to, if not to compete, then to complement Barkley. But that still remains to be seen. And them getting rid of Booker, I think, also kind of points to the fact that I think they're resigned to the fact that Barkley will be their back. And it may be a blessing in disguise. Because, again, some guys, young guys especially, don't respond to these types of injuries and come back as quickly as 1 year. Sometimes it takes a year or two. Again, as far as I'm concerned, the entire team didn't show up again on big game day. And I will say, very bad presence of mind. And maybe Dak is a good NFL quarterback, but not a winner. I've talked about it all the time. Derek Carr is a good NFL quarterback, not a winner. But not everybody's going to be. I mean, very bad presence of mind though in that game against who'd they lose to in the playoffs? 49ers, right? Not to hand the ball to the referee at the end of that game when they could have tied it. I mean, very bad. You got as the quarterback and leader of the team, you got to have the right presence of mind to know what to do with the football, and that's stand up and give it to the referee. O-line was the most penalized, and let's blame the. No, I agree with you that Dak is not the only problem. Only problem. I don't know I don't know. I'm going to tell you that I think Dak Prescott can win a Super Bowl. But you got to fix your offensive line. You've got to game plan and scheme correctly. There's no reason to have him throwing the ball 40 times a game when you got two of the best running backs in football behind him. Where's the Phantom? He's a little bit late. I don't know. Maybe he's still in hiding. Make sure we didn't miss a call from him somehow. Not yet. Not sure. Yeah, well, there you go. Mike McCarthy's part of the problem. And you look at, I also don't have any doubt that Jerry Jones' fingerprints they're all over the roster. We know that. And they're all over personnel moves. You don't think his fingerprints are all over game plans as well? Get him out of that role and let football people take care of it. And that's where we'll go. Kenny just fainted. I'm not sure why. Tell me why you fainted while I answer Mark Mancini's call. Damn. Good morning. Is this Mark Mancini?
Hey, my friend. Wow.
So
vacations and everything. Now we're back. We sorted out right, brother. How are you?
I am great. How are you? And I got to point out that I don't think it's vacations. I think I've been telling people, I think you're laying low. I think you've been in hiding ever since your favorite NFL team won the Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh. Got to be the most hated guy in Los Angeles. But when you're doing all these shows and everything and trying to contribute and help out other people on my network over here and your great network that's sweeping the country, the Sunday Grind, this is what ends up happening. And well, the only thing I can say is I'm blessed.
Rick wants to know if you bought out your contract with Carfax. I can't remember the joke. Rick had a really good joke about Carfax and you a couple weeks ago. I can't remember what it was.
San Diego was good.
I can promise you it was funny though. So, but welcome back. We're glad to have you back. We've missed your input, your slant or slanted view on sports.
Oh, yeah, off the wall, Dick Vitale type.
We have missed that. Tell me, before we dive into some other things you and I wanted to talk about today, I have to, even though we're well after the fact. Excuse me, I got all wrapped up in my headset here. Give me your take on a Super Bowl. Tell me why this Rams team that you so belittled was able to win the Super Bowl.
Well, let's look at the Rams in the playoffs. They beat up an Arizona team that really had no business being there. They stumbled after the Detroit game. Arizona, the wheels completely fell off the wagon. Then they took a Tampa team on, and if that thing went to overtime, you and I know what would have probably happened in that one. Tampa just ran out of gas to get it to overtime. Mm-hmm. The Hail Mary thing to Cooper Kupp, and they beat Tampa Bay. And nobody remembers the blown lead, but they remember the miraculous, go-ahead touchdown to win that game.
Last year's
Super Bowl. Then they get a San Francisco.
Right.
Then they get a San Francisco.
The history of professional football they beat. Yes, I understand.
Right. And then they get a San Francisco team that more or less, if they intercept that ball, at the end, then it's done. But I don't know how a 49er team can control the game for at least 3 quarters and a half and end up letting the Rams win it. Who knows? Maybe it's a conspiracy theory. But I will tell you, in the Cincinnati game, when the Bengals controlled that game, and I don't know what happened, and then we have the referee make a phantom call. Why are you dictating that game? I wanted to see a 4th and 6 and see what the Rams would have had to do, and they would have had to go for a touchdown. Why are you giving these Rams a pass interference thing so they can keep the drive going? That is the most bogus thing I saw in that Super Bowl at the end. So when you look at
hold on. Let me adjust that one point real quick. More bogus than the penalty that was not called on Higgins against Jalen Ramsey on the touchdown pass out of the half.
Well, if you're a Ram fan, this reminds me of the UCLA run. I believe it was in '95 when Caius Edney hit the shot to beat Missouri to catapult them.
I remember. Yeah.
When you look at the four the teams they beat, if you had to run this back 9 more times, could be a different result. I don't think the Rams are a juggernaut like the old Pittsburgh Steelers of the 70s,
no.
the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the 49ers of the 80s and stuff. This is, in my mind, I'll catch a lot of flack on it, but I'm going to throw it out there. This is a one-trick pony that just it ended up capitalizing on the opportunities that were given to them that will not win another Super Bowl probably for another decade.
Well, there's a lot of those teams, though, throughout the history of the NFL, and we don't take their trophies away. I mean, again, I knew you were going to have this take, so that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Everybody seems to know I'll have this take, but you know what? I respect the Lakers in this town because they have 17 titles. Okay, but when I look at the Dodgers, it's a second big market team, and you haven't won a World Series playing 162 games in 3 decades, and you came here and you waved your pom-poms and you played 60 games and you're world champs. So it's an asterisk in my mind.
Well, we can't lay that asterisk on this Rams team. They played a full season.
No, the Rams won it, and in 71 years or whatever it is, everybody has a birthday like this. So that's the Rams' birthday. I don't think they're going to do anything. I think McVay, to me, I wouldn't put McVay as a top coaches around the league. I mean, he knows how to buy into these guys and get them, but look at the division other than the 49ers. Seattle's on the decline. Arizona, we don't know what they're going to do. And you only got maybe San Francisco if they get Brady now, which I think they might. If Brady comes out of retirement.
Oh, he's not coming out of retirement. No way.
Goes to San Francisco. That could be an interesting scenario.
Yeah, he's not coming. He's not coming out of retirement.
But I will tell you this: the Steelers are going to get somebody. The Steelers will get Rodgers, I think.
I just don't know. I mean, look at. I think the Steelers are more likely to end up with Pickett out of the draft than they are to get Rodgers, but we'll see.
Well, you still need somebody to secure that, and people keep telling me the Tyrod Taylors or the Jameson Winstons, they don't last in Pittsburgh. They only last in the cities they played in.
No, yeah, that would be ridiculous. And you know what? If they were able to keep Juju Smith, then if Rodgers does in fact get traded, Pittsburgh would be a better destination than some of that I've heard, like Tampa Bay or Denver. To me, those aren't great destinations. Tampa Bay is the worst destination Rodgers could want. That team is like decimated. There's no running back.
Right.
They've lost half their offensive line. Goodwin won't be back, so there's nobody to throw the ball to. So I don't know why he.
And Washington's another one that's out there trying to get, a quarterback, and nobody seems to want to go there unless they could pull the Baker Mayfield, the Jimmy Garoppolo. Washington's going to get somebody too, but Russell Wilson looks like he don't want to go east. So it's going to be interesting to see where Russell Wilson goes.
Well, a couple comments here before we move on from the Rams entirely. Kenny says, what and ifs Stafford put you in your place? Just admit you were wrong. So,
Well, hey, wait a minute. Now let me jump on that one. Let me jump on that one.
Go ahead.
Stafford sitting on the float there. The woman reporter falls down. He turns the other way, chugging his Miller Lite, and it only until his wife looked out and said, "Hey, wow, what happened here?" Then we see Matthew Stafford. I've never been a Matthew Stafford guy. You know me, man. I don't have a thing against Georgia, but I'm not a Matthew Stafford guy. Never have, never will.
I wasn't, but I will admit I was wrong, and he has changed the narrative of his career because he now has a Super Bowl ring.
Charles Barkley. Okay, Charles Barkley doesn't have an NBA championship, but Robert Horry, that has 7 of them, ain't better than Charles Barkley. And I would take Phillip Rivers any day of the week without a title over Matthew Stafford.
Well, to each his own. And
Yeah.
this is why you have to keep that 24-hour protection as you have out there. And I think you're the second most protected guy on the planet, next to Zelensky. Zelensky in the Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know how many assassination attempts have been foiled against you in the last month.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, let me tell you about this. I caught some flack on XM about the baseball strike. I know we're past 100 days with this thing or whatever.
Yeah, let's go there. I wanted to pivot and switch gears and go to the lockout. So don't call it a strike. It's not a strike. It's a lockout.
Okay, first of all, you know where I lie with the players on this thing. The players own baseball. People might not know that, but they own baseball because that union is the strongest in this country, might be stronger than the Teamsters. So we have a trust factor here. And the trust factor is the players don't trust the owners because the owners claim they're losing money. So one, when the players say, okay, open up the books, show us that you're actually losing money, the owners balk at that idea. Oh, we can't show you the books. But that would be like going out to lunch with somebody and saying, hey, can you pick up the tab? I don't have my wallet. What's a big bulge on your right side of your pants there? It's got to be a wallet or something. Can you pull it out? No, I can't. So that's the same thing where the players don't trust these guys. Second of all, if the owners are really losing money, I think Corey Seager probably a one-time 300 hitter, $330 million for 10 years. So this is where it lies. I don't trust the owners. I'm with the players. I've always been with the players. And, the players get a lot of flack, Keith. People say they make a lot of money. They're greedy and all this. Nobody says anything when Andy Garcia or Julia Roberts are making $20 million on a film, but they complain about these ball players being greedy and making all this money. My idea is head down to the local Dick's Sporting Goods, pick up some bats balls, head over to Arizona and Florida. If you can hit 104-mile-an-hour fastball, they'll give you big money too. But I would take this one step further, and I've said this across the board. If these owners claim they're losing money and they don't want to pay these guys, slide over to the right. Let me get guys out there from, foreign countries in Japan and something. Let them build stadiums out here. They will pay the players, and they won't bitch and moan about paying the players. It's only these American owners, like the guys in the days we grew up with, the cheap owners like Calvin Griffiths, that wouldn't spend money on a team and started, saying we're losing money. I'm for the players. This thing I said will be going till May and June. They will break the owners' backs.
Well, I won't disagree that the owners' claim of making money is bogus, or there wouldn't be this money being spread around. And while I do not just give the players a pass, because the players are as much at fault here as the owners in my mind. This is billionaires against millionaires. They're all making money, and I do not begrudge them their money. To go to your comments about that, I don't begrudge anybody. It's a free trade. Capitalism, this is the way it works, right? Somebody feels you're worth this money. I'm not, who am I to say you're not worth 25 or $30 million a year? I wouldn't build teams this way, but I don't begrudge guys their money. But when there's this much money involved, billions of dollars in TV contracts, other sponsorships, the money that comes from wearables and things that they sell in the stores, jerseys and hats and whatever else. There's so much money involved for them not to be able to find middle ground. I got to blame both sides. And what they don't care about? Either side. You can talk about the owners and the players. And I do agree. I think the owners are trying to break this union. And I think some of these owners are willing to piss away an entire season to do it, which I think is crazy.
Well, here's the thing.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Neither side cares about the fans, number one. They don't care anything about the fan cost is, because it's not just a cost of a ticket or a beer. It's the cost of my streaming service. This is the cost of my cable TV. And they don't care about the people that are also affected by this entire strike, which is the vendors in the ballparks and the cabbies that are driving cab. Ask Cabby sometime about how it will affect him if the Giants don't play. And the restaurants and the waitresses and waiters around these ballparks. The trickle-down effect to a strike like this it hurts the economies of every city that we're talking about, and they don't care. Rob Manfred, again, this will back your point a little bit, sits up there talking about canceling the first 2 series of the season and making jokes and laughing it up there. And I think he's an embarrassment to the sport, but it carries over to the players as well.
Well, first of all, let me break this thing down. You talk about we grew up with one hat. We grew up with a home jersey, a road jersey. Then we started coming out with all these different hats, camouflage to sell and all this. Now we're bringing the retro look back to sell. The other thing is in L.A. a few years back, Frank McCourt owned a team, and people weren't going to the game. You know, for 81 games, it looked like Halloween. Everybody was dressing up as an empty chair. Yeah. So what he had to do was he had to have businessman specials, roll back half-price concessions, half-price merchandise. Still, people weren't going, but they were going a little bit more because everything was half off. These parking lots are like $25 to go to park your car. Thank God I don't drink. So the beers are like $20-something. The hot dogs are $10. 3 bites, you're done with it. You got to buy another one. So when I look at the owners in this whole thing is, you know, if I'm making you money, then, you know, I don't have to tell you I'm making you money. You can see I'm making you money. You should say, hey, let me kick this guy down. He's making me money. We went to strikes in 94. The sport was dead. And what resurrected it was chicks dig the long ball. They brought it back with the home run.
Cal Ripken saved baseball, by the way, just an FYI.
Right. Well, and also the Sosas and the McGuires, because Selig was sitting there and basically, you know, trying to look at the sport. How are you going to save a sport now if it does come back? It's going to be something. We saw the owners in the NFL with these painters and auto mechanics and car salesmen, no disrespect, playing quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, the Steelers, and all this. Nobody goes to that. Nope. So if you have foreign ownership come in here and push these American owners out of the way if they don't want to spend the money, they will build the stadiums, and the baseball will not miss a beat. But if the owners try to do that and bring in these, you know, plan B, plan C players, nobody's going to see the sport.
Guess what? Baseball's so your prediction is this thing goes to May or June.
May or June.
Are you saying the strike lasts till May or June, or they'll start playing?
I think the strike lasts till May and June, and hopefully I'll get that All-Star game off my bucket list that I keep eluding.
Well, that means that if it goes to June, they don't start playing until July.
Right.
Right. Okay. So if they
here's the other thing, Keith. When you look at it, you know who's going to hurt the most is the players, because now you're going to rush a spring training. You're going to have injuries and all this other stuff.
And I'm not going to feel bad for them.
Right.
You know, they've got an opportunity to both sides to come to compromises that fit both. Right. And again,
and let me finish your thing on Rob Manfred here.
Go ahead.
Rob Manfred, to me, is the biggest joke. He needs to go. He's a lawyer that does nothing in baseball. He made a comment when he first got in there that the World Series trophy was a piece of metal. This guy showed me his IQ was a snail.
I don't disagree with that comment. Yeah.
You know, and he needs to go. He really does. They don't respect him. Marcus Stroman called him out of the Cubs. This guy's a guy, when they don't respect you, this is what happens. He needs to go, and that's the problem. They cater this. Marvin Miller laid a great plan for the players, and they're not budging, man. Tony Clark is not budging here.
As much as I hate Rob Manfred, and I think will be the ruination of baseball if they don't get rid of him, I agree he needs to go. He's not leading the way here. It's the owners. He works for them. They don't follow his beat. He's not the main negotiator here. You know, it's the owners are pulling the strings on this thing. So, again,
you know, like I said before, and we've talked about this on some occasions too. When you looked at the Seattle Supersonics, and I think the Bennett guy pulled them out, moved them to Oklahoma City. Hey, dude, if you're losing money in your local city, you don't have no right to pull that team out of that city that's been there for 4 decades. Sell it to a local investor to keep that thing in the city. That's what they're going to start doing with these owners. They got to start locking them down, man.
Well, the fans got to come out and support the teams too, though. I mean, if you're not making money, I should be able to move my business. You know, I don't want to get in a position where I'm backing the owners, because I don't back either side. But if I got a business that's failing in one city, I should be able to move it to another.
Yeah. Well, so how do you suggest to the owners in baseball I'm a diehard Pirate fan.
Mhm.
You know that. We haven't had a winner there.
Put a
Whose
good
fault is
product on
that?
the
Is
field.
that the players or is that the owners?
That's probably the owners because they are not putting a good product on the field.
Right.
I agree. I don't disagree with that. So again,
Wow, we got a ladders, tables, and chairs show here today. I love it, man.
well, again, I'm on neither side. I think both of them are crazy. And if your scenario plays out and they come back in June to play baseball or July to play baseball, they're going to come back to stadiums that are about 40% full because people aren't going to show up. I'm telling you right now, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Baseball's in a very vulnerable position right now as far as standing in the sports world, as far as fandom goes, and where fans are going to spend their money. And baseball is shooting themselves in the foot, and it's on both sides. Stephen Gold brings up the minimum salary, $600,000. I mean, we can't find some wiggle room between $600,000 and wherever the players are. Both sides have to be able to give here, you know?
Well, I totally agree with that. But if I'm telling you, show me your books to say you're really losing money that you can't afford, I can come to middle ground. But if you say you're losing money and you don't show me your books, how am I supposed to trust you then? And that's where it lies. I think the players get the bad end of this flack. The fans look at it and all that. They look at these guys as greedy guys and everything. But the owners are the real problem here. And I've said it from the get-go. And you know, I'm born in the States just like you are too. But if these American owners do not want to spend the money, move out of the way. Let's get some foreign ownership. Because I will tell you this, you get some Japanese businessmen coming in here. These guys want some money. They're not going to bitch and moan. They're going to pay these players.
Come on. So the way to fix baseball, the American pastime, is to get foreign owners. I mean,
well, how are you going to save us? How will you save a sport if you want to keep a sport going? Because these guys don't want to pay the players that are making them money. They're making them money. It's not the owners making the players money. The players are making the owners money because people aren't coming to see the owners. They're coming to see the Harpers, the Trouts, these guys.
Compared to the real world, though, I mean, you know, if you want more money, you're going to go tell Sirius XM Radio to open their books and show me that you can't afford to pay me, or you think I can go to my bosses and say that? I'd be shown the door.
Right. But here's the thing. The hardest thing in life, and you and I can probably agree on this, the hardest thing in life is, no disrespect to doctors across the board and everything. The hardest thing in life is to make it in Major League Baseball, to go up that ranks and last there for more than a cup of coffee. All these other sports, they don't have the rookie leagues. You got to go through the single A, double A, triple A, and all this. Baseball to me is the hardest thing in life to do.
I don't disagree. Hitting a baseball is, yes.
Yeah.
But then they don't.
Go look at these three.
But then 80% of the players don't do the easiest thing in baseball to do, which is actually like hustle and run out base hits. They turn doubles into singles.
Well, yeah, the game's changed. Look at the NBA today. Can you watch the NBA? It's hard for me to watch it.
No, but again, if I'm going to pay you real money to do a job, then do the whole job, not just hit home runs and stand there. You know? Right.
Well, that's why I love hockey too. When I look at that, when you look at these other sports, a contract in the NFL, a $40 million contract in the NFL is worth like $10. That's why baseball is, when you look at these guys, and the owners keep amping it up, the players keep getting what they want. We saw the first $100 million guy, the $200 million, $300. Yeah. You're going to start to see guys get more and more. The owners are I'm going to tell you, they will not bust this players union. These players are not going to budge.
Oh, look, I don't begrudge the guys their money. I told you before. To me, what you're worth is what somebody's willing to pay you. I don't have any problem with anybody making as much as they can. The fans,
and these guys that are complaining,
then they stay away.
Right, and the guys that are complaining, that are saying that these guys are making all this money, get in the country squire, load up the family, and go take your bats and balls and take them out to the field, man. Go hit a Marcus Stroman 100-mile-an-hour pitcher, one of these guys, and they'll pay you money. That's it, bottom line. But these people, sit back there. I never hear them complain about going to spend big money to go see a movie in a theater or paying, these actresses or all these other guys. I mean, I see Ashton Kutcher making all this money, donating all this money around. Nobody says anything how much he makes, but they're complaining about a Bryce Harper.
Again, don't mistake my position, which I understand you're not. There's a lot of people that say this. My wife and I had this conversation just this morning that nobody talks about George Clooney getting $50 million for a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, again, you're worth what you get, Kenny. And we won't. I want to get on to one other topic before we gotta let you go. We don't have to do it real quick. But Billy Pulver talks about the players. I got to get you on so you can see. You got to get back in. So.
Yeah. Next week, man. Next week,
good.
Baby.
Good. Billy's talking about we should have the players own the teams. Then they get the owners' money, and nobody have to play. We don't have to play the players, and it's cheaper for the fans. Might be something to that. Player-owned teams, just like I don't know, a little takeoff on the Green Bay Packers, owned by the community. Only now the franchise will be owned by the players that actually play there. I don't know how it would ever work, but it's an interesting concept.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You know where this is headed. How I compare this to the baseball, I compare it to the NCAA. These guys standing here, throwing a scholarship out, and then they're basically making money on somebody else's jersey, like a Johnny Manziel who put Texas A&M on the map, and they're making money on him. How do you make money on somebody's name like that? And that's the same thing what the owners are trying to do. They're trying to capitalize on the players and making the players look like, well, we're trying to give them, this, and we're trying to. The only thing I can agree on this strike with is get 12 teams in the playoffs. Let's get that thing going. That's the only thing I agree on. But they're trying to squeeze these guys, but they're trying to break the union.
They want 14 teams, and Max Scherzer has a plan where the higher ranked team in every series starts off 1-0. That's ridiculous. You're just changing the whole dynamic of the game. This is why nothing's getting done, because you got guys like Max Scherzer out there putting out stupid ideas like that about.
Well, and they got the dumb owners playing a DH in the National League, putting a softball guy at ghost runner at second base, 7-inning double headers. I mean, come on.
No, I get it. It's all ridiculous. That's why I hate both sides, and I'm ready to, go. I was going to go nuclear on them, but I made that comment the other day, and somebody said now I shouldn't be saying that because we could have missiles launched at us at any minute. So shut up. Listen, real quick before I let you go, because we only got like 2 minutes.
Okay.
The mandates are off all major league sports, as far as I know, as far as masks and vaccinations. So guys like Kyrie Irving now can play in their home court, as far as I know. How do you see this impacting sports going forward?
Well, I look at it like this, and you know where I lie on this to a certain extent. I mean, I think everybody has a medical choice. I put my faith in one thing and one thing only, straight up. Yep. I think California, what's been happening is more or less, I don't know if it's because of the primary coming up or whatever, they dropped a lot of mandates out here. Mm-hmm. And, maybe if they reclaim it or something, maybe we'll have these things back in November. But I will tell you this, I said, that it probably end in March a few months ago, because I thought, okay, as we get into the warm weather and everything, the NFL did it. I think we're going to see a lot more teams doing this across the board in hockey and basketball and baseball and stuff. I think, to me, and I don't want to disrespect it in any shape, way, or form. I think, who knows what this whole thing is. To me, you just put your faith in one thing and roll with that, whatever that might be.
Well, we'll dive into that a little bit more when we chat some more. Mark, hope to have you on with me Wednesday night. I got to let you go because I got to wrap this up in about a minute.
I love you, brother. Love the show.
Great to have you back. Glad you're out of hiding, but stay safe out there.
I will.
All right. See you later, buddy. Bye-bye. So the great Mark Mancini, who always generates great what I say about Duke the other day. He's a polarizing figure. Love him or hate him. I love having him on. I disagree with a lot of what he says. I hate both the players and the owners' positions here. I got to wrap this up, guys, or I'm not going to be able to share it to Roku because I'm going to be over my time. Great show today. Thanks for your participation, all you guys. Like and share the show. Invite your friends at TGI Sports Talk in
to Northeast Streaming Sports. And we'll see you on Wednesday night with the College Sports Huddle. Keith Engel, right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network with TGI Sports Talk. See you later. Bye-bye.